Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
Before I start today's show, I need to ask you all for a favor. In order to support Court Junkie, I'll need the help of some great advertisers. And in order to find great advertisers, I'll need to learn a little bit more about you, the listeners. So please go to courtjunkie.com/survey and take a quick, anonymous survey that will help me get to know you a little bit better. That way, I can show advertisers just how great my listeners are. Even if you've taken a podcast listener survey before, this one is specific to Court Junkie, so I really need you to take this one too. Plus, once you've completed the survey, you can enter to win a $100 Amazon gift card. Again, that's courtjunkie.com/survey. Thanks for your help. And now, on to the regularly scheduled programming. Hey everyone. While I'm recording these episodes, sometimes I need a little pick-me-up. And there just so happens to be a tasty little dairy drink that helps. I'm of course referring to Lifeway Kefir. You can find Lifeway Kefir in the dairy aisle of your local grocery store. There's plain, strawberry, blueberry, and raspberry. And if you're lucky, you may even come across one of their seasonal flavors. Hibiscus rhubarb pie is their seasonal flavor for the spring. Go to lifewaykefir.com/courtjunkie for a coupon. That's Lifeway, KEFIR.com/courtjunkie.
I didn't have what everyone else had, and what everyone else had was hope. And the hope was that we would find her and she would be okay and all that. I didn't have that. I didn't have that for not 1 second after I shook Travis's hand. I knew what I knew.
Hi, this is Jillian, and thank you for listening. This is episode 18 of the Court Junkie podcast. Today's episode starts off with a missing 19-year-old girl and a family's resolve to find her, at whatever the cost. This case is filled with twists and turns that may sound unbelievable, but it's real life. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for listening, subscribing, sharing with your friends, leaving reviews, and donating. Your support while making this podcast is amazing, and I cannot thank you enough. If you want to discuss these cases or anything else true crime related, please consider joining my Facebook discussion group, which you can do at courtjunkie.com/Facebook. And now, on to today's episode. It was April 2nd, 2011. Tony Lee, a man fueled by worry over his missing daughter, went to the upstairs of his Aurora, Colorado home and grabbed his 9mm handgun. His daughter, 19-year-old Kenia Monge, had been missing for 2 days now, and he was about to go meet face-to-face with the man who had likely been the last person to see her alive. His wife Maria was home, and she too was frantic with worry, not only about their missing daughter, but she was terrified of her husband going to meet with the mystery man who had supposedly encountered their daughter on the night that she went missing. Things had started to unravel the afternoon prior. Maria had received a phone call from their other daughter, Kim, who informed her that she had received a call from one of Kenia's friends, asking if she knew where Kenia was. She told her mom that she too was unable to get a hold of Kenia, something that was very unlike her. Kim and Kenia had an extremely close relationship. They were more than just sisters. They were friends, and had been, ever since Kenia first came into their lives. Maria gave birth to Kenia when she was just 15 years old and living in Honduras. She was a young, single mom. Kenia's father hadn't been involved in her life at all, and Maria knew that she wanted to provide a better life for her daughter. So Maria left Kenia with her mother, Kenia's grandmother, and migrated to the United States in 1993. She lived there for 11 years and worked with the goal of bringing Kenia over as soon as she could. She married Tony Lee, and they had 2 children together, Kim and Anthony. And then finally, in 2004, when Kenia was just 12 years old, she too came to the U.S. to join her family. And while the move was no doubt difficult for a child who couldn't speak any English, within just 6 months, Kenia was adapting. So much so that she was awarded the Mayor's Youth Award in 2007 for her ability to overcome obstacles in her life. And not only was she doing well academically and with her peers, but Kenia was fitting right in with her family. Her mother, stepfather, and 2 siblings. They were a close, tight-knit family. So when they were unable to get in touch with Kenia, her family knew right away that something was wrong. So they tried to retrace Kenia's footsteps from the night before. Where had she gone? And who had she been with? Within a few hours of getting that phone call, one of Kenia's friends came over to drop off some of Kenia's belongings that she said she had left at the bar that they had gone to the night before. She admitted that although they were underage, Kenia had gone out with her and another friend of hers, and that they had gone out drinking. They were friends that Kenia didn't normally hang out with, more like acquaintances. She told Tony and Maria that while they were out, Kenia had left her purse, cell phone, and car keys on a table at the bar they were at. She said they last saw Kenia at about 12:05 a.m. inside 24K nightclub in Denver. They had looked for her but couldn't find her. When the bar closed, the friends took her stuff and assumed that Kenia would make it home another way, but she hadn't. When the friend left, Maria went through Kenia's purse while Tony checked her phone. He went through her text messages and started making phone calls to the people that Kenia had been having conversations with, but no one knew where she was. Then, at 6:56 p.m., a text message came through to Kenia's phone. It was from an unknown number, and it said, "Hey, this is Travis, the guy who gave you a ride last night. White creepy van. Did you get home okay?" Tony tried calling the number numerous times, and he kept leaving messages, but there was no answer, and no one called him back. So he called the police and filed a missing persons report at about 9:40 that night. But it was a Saturday, and he was told that because it was the weekend, no one in their missing persons unit was around. And besides, they told him, there wasn't much they could do since she hadn't been missing for a full 72 hours yet. The next day, Tony finally received a call back from the mysterious man named Travis, and he told Tony that he had encountered Kenia the night that she went missing. He said that he and his friend Edward had come across Kenia at about 2:30 a.m., and that she had been talking to a homeless man in the street. He said she appeared to be very intoxicated, and so he offered to take her to Club Lavish, where she told him that her car had been parked. The 3 of them were unable to locate her vehicle, so Travis asked Kenia where she lived. He said he learned that she lived on South Trenton Way, near a place that he sometimes sleeps over at, so he offered to take her home. He said after they dropped off Edward, they were driving down Spear Boulevard towards Leetsdale when Kenia asked him for a cigarette to help calm her down. He said he pulled into the Conoco gas station looking for cigarettes, but the station was closed. While they were there, he said they saw a man walking down the street, smoking. Kenia got out of Travis's van and approached the man, asking him for a cigarette. The man gave her one, and they sat down on the curb to smoke. Afterwards, Kenia and Dan began walking off together. Travis said he asked Kenia if she was okay, and then he drove to his girlfriend's house to spend the night there. I spoke with Tony and his wife Maria, Kenia's mom, for this episode. Tony told me about that first phone call with Travis.
After leaving him all of those messages, he called me. And I thanked him for, sending the message, and I just wanted to know. I said, you're kind of the last person who had any credible contact with her. Can you tell me kind of what happened? So he proceeded to tell me this story about how he met her, what he did for her, what happened after, how he picked her up in front of this building. She was talking to a homeless guy, how he drove her back to the club where she said she was at, where her friends were at, where her car was at, not finding anyone, how he asked her where she lived, and at that time she was staying at her boyfriend's house, and she was able to tell him where it was at and where the boyfriend lived and where Travis was staying, which was at that bakery. It was less than a mile apart. So he said, hey, I know where you're talking about. I know the apartment complex you're talking about. Why don't I just give you a ride home? What he's telling me, he proceeds to take her home. As they're leaving downtown, he says that she all of a sudden wanted a cigarette. And as they're driving up this street called Spear Boulevard, the Conoco gas station on the other side of this divide way, and it's divided by this river that runs down the middle of that particular street. It's a two-sided one-way street with the river down the middle. And she said they went up, turned around, he tells me they go to the gas station, it was closed. And she became upset and became highly emotional. And he said he was trying to calm her down, and she was, out of it. So, and as he was trying to calm her down, there's this Oriental guy comes walking up the sidewalk. He says the guy's name was Daniel, and he was smoking. And he saw this, and so she jumped out of the car, according to him, goes over to where Daniel's at. She starts smoking with him. They sat down on the curb. This Oriental guy and Kenia are talking Spanish to each other. And he says that gets out, asks Kenia what she wants to do. She says, I'm going to stay with him. They get off, and they left. He says after that, he says he went home.
Immediately after he hung up with Travis, Tony called the police, but he got the same response as he did when he had called the night before to report her missing. The missing persons unit was out for the weekend. It hadn't been 72 hours yet.
After I got off the phone with them, I called Travis back, and I wanted to kind of drill down on his story. And I'm doing that. I said, I'm hitting him with these questions. And he just breaks down and he says, hey, I tell you what, why don't you meet me at this Conoco station on Beer and 3rd Avenue? I knew exactly where he was talking about. I hung up and I told him, I'm on my way. And I hung up and I proceeded to go on my way. I went upstairs. I'm a firearm enthusiast, and I have a 9mm. I went and grabbed it, and I told Maria what I was going to do. I told her where I was going. Maria was on her hands and knees begging me not to go because for some reason she had a bad feeling about me going down there to meet up with him, and I had to go. And there was just no question about that. Police were not sending anyone there, and the missing persons, when we're still within their golden window or whatever. And so I told her where I was going. I said, you could do with this information what you want. I'm on my way down.
Despite Maria's pleas, Tony left to go meet Travis. But as he was leaving, Maria called 911 and told them where he was headed. So when he showed up at the agreed-upon meeting place, the Conoco gas station, 2 police cars were already there.
I think that what brought them there the most is that when she told them when I walked out the door, I'm a black man, I got a gun, and I'm going down there to meet these guys. So when I got there were 2 police cars there waiting for me. And I got there, they came to me, and I told them why I was there. And so they said, they kind of looked at me and said, you got anything on you? And I said, no, I know what you're talking about. I said, it's in the car.
Travis was there too. He had brought a friend of his, and they had parked Travis's white van in the back of the gas station. The officers acted as a go-between between Tony and Travis. Travis repeated the same story that he had told Tony about how he was going to give Kenia a ride home when she went off with the man that she had met. One of the officers walked over to Tony and told him that he agreed that the story sounded suspicious. He told Tony to stay back while he continued to question Travis. In the meantime, Tony decided to go in the back and check out Travis's van.
But as he was over there talking to him, I went around to the back of that gas station to just check out the van. He called it the creepy white van in the message that he had sent to Kenya on his cell phone. When I got within 10 feet of that van, the smell of bleach was so overpowering that I had to go back around front to this officer and say, hey, you need to come back here with me right now and check something out. He came back there with me. And it also, the smell of bleach was so overpowering, it hit him too. So he proceeded to walk around the vehicle till he got to, and then his suspicions went up another notch as mine had. There's something's not right about this. We were both kind of reading off each other, feeling the same thing.
The officers asked Travis if they could search his van, telling him that the temporary plates he had on it were expired, so they could get a warrant if needed. Travis agreed.
So he proceeded to search the van, the front of the seating area, the pigsty, paper wrappers, cigarettes, there's not cigarettes, but, paper trash and everything was there. But the back of that van was showroom clean, new carpet. It was scrubbed down. It was clean. The ceiling, the floor, everything was, I call it showroom clean. And that was another thing that was like, it just ain't right.
Even though the officer was also now suspicious of Travis, they couldn't hold him or do anything further. He had Travis write out his statement about the night Kenia went missing, and then Travis and his friend left. But before they left, Travis approached Tony.
The cop came over. Officer Monahan came over. I keep calling him a cop. I'm sorry about that. But Officer Monahan came over to me and said, he wants to talk to you. Travis did. And I said, okay. I want to talk to him. But he comes up to me, and as he's coming up to me, he's crying. And I thought, this is weird, and he's crying and he's saying he's sorry, wish he had followed through on what he had started, and he wanted to apologize to me that he didn't follow through on what he started. So I thanked him. I said, I appreciate you did what you did. And I reached out my hand to shake his hand. And when I shook his hand, it was at that point, he was trembling. It wasn't a visible tremble. It was only a tremble in that handshake. But it was at that time, it was at that instant, at that moment that I knew that I was shaking the hand of the last person to see Kenia alive.
After they left, one of the officers stayed behind with Tony. He promised him that he would keep his eye on the case for him. And then he said something else. He told Tony that he had actually responded to a domestic violence call involving Travis the year before. And he told Tony that although he couldn't give him the address of where that call had originated from, he could tell him the neighborhood. I know that someone's appearance virtually means nothing, but still, I was curious as to what Tony's impression of Travis was after meeting him in person. What did you think of Travis when you first saw him?
Blonde hair, blue eyes, tall. I'm 6'2", he's about 6 feet, 6'1". And I actually thought this, well, if anybody's going to be picking her up and trying to help her out, this is what I want him to look like.
The next day, Tony decided that he couldn't just sit around and wait. Kenia's friends and other family members were conducting searches in the neighborhood and passing out missing persons flyers with Kenia's photo on them. She was described as 4'11", weighing about 90 pounds. She was last seen wearing a black skirt, black jacket, and red high heels. But after having met with Travis, Tony couldn't join them in passing out the flyers. He knew in his heart that she would no longer be alive.
I carried that with me during the whole time that she was missing. I never went with them to give out posters. I never went on any of the things that they were doing, handing out posters, going to churches and all of these things. I was searching fields. I was looking in ditches. I was going to all these other different places because what I felt from that handshake wasn't what everyone else's. I didn't have what everyone else had, and what everyone else had was hope. And the hope was that we would find her and she would be okay and all that. I didn't have that. I didn't have that for not 1 second after I shook Travis's hand. I knew what I knew.
So Tony decided to do some investigative work of his own. He went to the gas station to see if there was any surveillance video from the night Kenia went missing, but no luck. There was only footage from the inside, and neither Kenia nor Travis had ever gone inside because it had been closed. He then drove to Travis's neighborhood, the area the officer had told him about, and started looking through the area dumpsters. He was looking for clues, anything related to where Kenia might be, but he didn't find anything. On that following Monday, the Missing Persons Unit finally got involved. And 2 days later, they conducted a formal interview with Travis, whose full name was Travis Forbes, at the Denver Police Headquarters. He was 31 years old and rented space at Debbie's Bakery and Cafe in Arapahoe County. He had his own baking business, creating gluten-free granola bars he called Forbies. Travis again gave police permission for them to search his van, and he repeated his story about how he had come across Kenia the night she went missing. He said the last time he had seen her was when she was walking away from the Conoco gas station with the man named Dan. He said that afterwards, he drove to his girlfriend Carrie's house, which was between 3 and 3:30 a.m., and he said he slept there until he had to go to work at about 8:30 the next morning. There was no doubt that police were going to thoroughly vet Travis's story, so they got a court order for his phone records, which showed that his phone was nowhere near his girlfriend's house that night. Police interviewed the owner of Debbie's Bakery, where Travis had told him that he was renting out space for his business. The owner told police that when she went into the bakery on the morning of April 2nd, more than 24 hours after Kenia was last seen, she found that her surveillance camera had been turned off. She had initially installed cameras to try and catch whoever it was that had been stealing money from the register. She played it back and saw that the last image captured on the videotape was of Travis. He walked into her office and turned the surveillance machine off at 7:22 p.m. on April 1st, right after Travis had sent that first text message to Kenia's phone. In the video, Travis was wearing latex cleaning gloves that went to his elbows. The owner told officers that he wasn't scheduled to work that day. Officers checked additional surveillance from the bakery, and they saw that at 7:10 p.m., Travis was wheeling a cart, with a large white cooler on top into the large walk-in freezer. The cooler was sealed with black duct tape. He was also seen carrying a roll of carpet from his van and then walking out to his van, carrying what looked like a bottle of bleach. But that wasn't all. Police interviewed neighboring businesses, and a man who worked nearby told them that he was leaving his store at around 8:30 that night when he saw 2 or 3 men behind the bakery burning something in one of those 55-gallon metal drums. He said there was a white cargo van nearby. The owner of another neighboring business said that on the afternoon of April 2nd, between 2 and 3 p.m., just hours before Travis would be meeting with Tony, he saw Travis's van parked behind the bakery. He said Travis was cleaning a large white cooler in the back of his van. On April 5th, the bakery owner again called the police. She told them that she discovered that she was missing a white Igloo cooler and that a new fire extinguisher that she had purchased seemed to have a broken gauge. Police conducted a search of the bakery, and according to the affidavit, a detective discovered what appeared to be 5 drops of suspected dried blood on the floor. Although police seemed to be closing in on him, they repeatedly told reporters that although they were investigating Travis, they were not yet ready to call him a suspect. So, who was Travis Forbes? It turns out he was no stranger to the police, nor was he a stranger to violent behavior towards women. Originally from Fort Collins, Colorado, when he was just 17 years old, Travis broke into 16 area homes and businesses and stole more than $15,000 worth of money and merchandise. When police searched his room, they found several pairs of women's underwear. He had written an M on them for the woman in which he had stolen them from. He was charged with 2 felony burglary counts and sentenced to 9 years in prison, but he was admitted into a military camp instead. After being in the program for 50 days, he was kicked out for various rule violations. He was later placed on probation, but he got into trouble while on probation too. In 1998, he was arrested for criminal harassment. In 1999, he was caught carrying a knife, a violation of his probation. And he violated his curfew 43 times in 1998 and 1999. He was then sent to community corrections. Then, in July 2004, 2 women were out jogging when they passed Travis and another woman standing by a car. One of the women said she felt something hit her in the back of the head and felt a stinging sensation. She had been hit by a rock. The women turned around and another rock was thrown at them. They confronted Travis, and he started yelling obscenities at them, taunting them, asking what they were going to do about it. The woman who was with Travis at the time told police that he only gets that way when he's been drinking. Travis told police that he had just been kicking rocks and that one had accidentally hit her leg. But no one bought his story, and he was convicted of 3rd-degree assault. He spent 5 months in jail. Now, in 2011, Travis was telling reporters that he was a changed man, a good Samaritan even, who had offered to give Kenia that ride home. The media had been reporting on Kenia's disappearance, and Travis wasn't shying away. He gave an interview to 9 News, telling him that he knew he was the main suspect in the disappearance of the missing girl, but that he was innocent.
I'm sorry that I was indifferent, that I didn't think anything. I didn't think anything. I didn't think she was gonna disappear. I could have walked with them. I could have been like, no, I'm gonna take you home, and been, I could have intervened more, you know, and not just said, okay, and gone home, you know. You know, everybody has their own choices, you know, and she chose to walk off with this guy. And I can't blame myself for that. God, I'm sorry. This has been really emotional for me.
Tony said when he heard Travis's interview, he was enraged. Because at one point, when Travis is describing what happened that night, he can't seem to remember Kenia's name.
He got to one part where he answered, he was going to talk about her, and he was like, what was her name again? And I lost it. You know, I mean, at that time, her name was the only name in town. I mean, by that time, her story had blown up to where it was on a national level, where I was getting calls from Nancy Grace. You know, I was getting calls from, you know, every media outlet damn near in the country who were wanting, some wanting to help, some wanting the story, you know, and so, you know, for him to come up with that type of response, it just pissed me off. And I wanted to go see it. At that time, I knew where he lived, and I was talked out of it, you know, and I think I'm glad I was talked out of it.
The owner of the bakery had been speaking to reporters, too. After she told them about the surveillance video of Travis wheeling the cooler around inside the bakery, Travis called reporters. He said that the cooler's latch had broken and that he was using the duct tape to hold the container closed. Although he didn't say what was in the cooler, he said that he was worried that his other activities on the night that Kenia disappeared would eventually surface. He said, "There are other things about that night that will come out, but it had nothing to do with that girl who's missing. I don't want to incriminate myself. With Colorado's 3 strikes law, I could get a habitual offender charge." As for Kenia, he said, "They'll find her, and evidence will point to whoever did this." And then, things in the case went silent. And so did Travis. In fact, Travis skipped town. Travis had left town, but the investigation into Kenia's disappearance never stopped. On the chance that Travis had been telling the truth, police put out a bulletin for that mysterious man named Dan Travis said she had walked off with. But nothing came of it. They also checked Travis's alibi. He had said that he was with his girlfriend Carrie after his encounter with Kenia, that he had arrived at her place around 3 a.m. Carrie confirmed his story, but they still had their suspicions. They had been poring over Travis's cell phone records, and they discovered that he had made calls from a rural area called Keensburg. Detectives visited the area to talk to neighbors there and to search, but they kept coming up empty. They also conducted more searches at the bakery. They found the barrel that the man at a neighboring business had seen being burned the night after Kenia's disappearance. Police found that barrel in the parking lot and sent it to the crime lab, but nothing turned up. And then they found additional surveillance video. This from the night that Kenia went missing, with Kenia on it. It was from an apartment building near the club where Kenia had been. Kenia could be seen on video talking to a man. She went upstairs with him, but came back down a few minutes later. She was stumbling and appeared to be intoxicated. Police found that man and interviewed him, but he said that Kenia had come up to his apartment for just a few minutes before leaving, and his story matched the surveillance video, as she was later seen on different surveillance video stumbling through the lobby of a hotel. She appeared to be more intoxicated than someone who was just drunk. Tony said he believed that she may have even been drugged. On May 4th, 2011, a little over a month after Kenia's disappearance, Travis resurfaced in Austin, Texas. He was arrested on a stolen vehicle warrant. He had allegedly borrowed a car from a friend and then took off to Austin, failing to return it. While he was in custody, police interviewed him, and not just the Austin police. A detective from Denver, Detective Nash Garule, had flown in to interview him about Kenia's disappearance. For a little over 3 hours, Detective Garule interviewed him. He again repeated his story, but Garule told him that there was surveillance that showed his van arriving at the gas station, but no evidence of Kenia ever walking away. He also said that a hair in the back of Travis's van had been found when they had searched it. Travis responded, "If you guys found a piece of her hair with the root in the back of my van, how are you not arresting me? How is that not? That to me, this is why I have a lawyer, man. That's just one more nail in the fucking coffin." Garule said, "If you had sex with her, so be it. But dude, not saying that and then finding out later that you did, that's not going to look good." Travis replied, "Dude, none of this looks good. I'm in fucking Texas." Garule tried again. "So, did she have sex with you?" Travis responded, "I think at this point, my lawyer should be present. I shouldn't be saying another word." Garule then presented Travis with a search warrant for his DNA. They swabbed his cheek and then got hair samples from his head. Travis could be heard on the interrogation tape saying, "Did you find her? Why would you be taking my DNA? You found a girl." Garule said, "What?" Travis said, "You found a girl and there's some shit. There's probably, well, obviously DNA." Travis was extradited back to Jefferson County, Colorado for the theft charge. But a month later, his friend dropped the charges, meaning that Travis was released again. And again, he didn't stick around. This time he headed to Fort Collins, Colorado, where he grew up, to reportedly go live with his dad. But this time, Denver detectives had surveillance on him. By this time, Travis was a full-on suspect in Kenia's disappearance, even if the media didn't know it. While he was in Fort Collins in early July, Denver detectives had him under surveillance. They were particularly concerned because Fort Collins was a college town, home to Colorado State University. On the night of July 1st, 2011, the detectives watched as Travis went out to the local bars. He was acting rowdy in the streets, so much so that Fort Collins police officers who had been patrolling the area and who had no idea who Travis was stopped him to give him a warning. Afterwards, the Denver detectives approached the Fort Collins officers and filled them in on who Travis was and why they were surveilling him. But Travis kept a low profile for the next few nights, and Denver detectives couldn't surveil him forever, so they pulled their surveillance and headed back to Denver. On July 4th, 2011, the Fort Collins Fire Department responded to an apartment fire. When they arrived on the scene, they saw a naked woman laying in the backyard, and she was badly injured. She had been sexually assaulted, strangled, beaten, and then left for dead in her apartment after her assailant poured bleach on her body and in the apartment and then set it on fire. The woman was 30-year-old Lydia Tillman, and she had somehow found the strength to leap out of her second-story window. The paramedic who encountered her asked if she knew her assailant, and she kept repeating, "No, no, no." Her injuries included a crushed jaw and eye sockets, broken ribs, and a broken wrist. She was airlifted to the hospital, and then she suffered a stroke that would leave her in a coma for the next 5 weeks. At first, police thought that Lydia knew her attacker. The crime seemed to be personal, but they were hard-pressed to find any evidence left over from the fire. The crime scene, including any possible forensic evidence, was essentially destroyed. Bleach had been poured all throughout the apartment, and the assailant had cleaned up first. However, investigators were able to get microscopic DNA from under Lydia's fingernails, and they sent it off for processing. As the Fort Collins police were investigating, they remembered how the Denver police had told them about a man that they had been surveilling in Fort Collins. They reached out to the Denver detectives and told them about what had happened, including the fact that bleach had been used. Detective Garule was pretty sure that Travis was their guy, and Tony Lee had a feeling about it too.
It was on the afternoon of July 5th, I hear this report of a girl up in Fort Collins, it was on the news, of being attacked in an apartment up in Fort Collins. How she had jumped out the window and how she was in critical condition. I paid attention to that story because it was just weird.
A few days later, Travis was again under surveillance, this time from Fort Collins police officers, in conjunction with Denver authorities. At about 2 a.m., they saw Travis walking around by the bar scene, but he didn't go into any of the bars. They saw him following a woman who appeared to be intoxicated, walking down the street by herself. One of the officers stopped him and started asking him questions. Travis told the officer that his name was Travis Kennedy. According to the police report, Travis appeared extremely nervous when he provided this information, and he said he didn't have an ID, didn't know his address, and he didn't have a phone number. The officer again had no choice but to let him go. About an hour later, they saw Travis following yet another woman who also appeared to be intoxicated and walking home alone. By this time, he had reportedly changed his t-shirt and put a hat on. Officers knew they had to stop him, and so they made the decision to arrest him on a misdemeanor charge of false reporting. But they couldn't keep him in custody for long. They only had him on a misdemeanor. They couldn't hold him on anything else, and it was literally a matter of hours before he would be posting bail. So it was a race against the clock. Travis was given a bond and was about to be released when, almost down to the last minute, police were able to get a match on the DNA from under Lydia's fingernails. And sure enough, it was a match to Travis. They were able to stop the bail proceedings just in time, and Travis was held on attempted murder, sexual assault, and arson charges. And within days, additional counts were added, including attempted murder after deliberation, attempted murder with extreme indifference, assault, arson, 3 counts of sexual assault, and 4 counts of a violent crime sentence enhancer. But Kenia was still missing, and Tony was more desperate than ever to find her. The district attorney called to tell him about Travis's arrest, and Tony gave her the go-ahead to make him a deal.
During that phone call, she let me know we were able to get a DNA from under her fingernails, and the DNA matched Travis Forbes, and we have arrested him. But at that moment, I told the DA, look, you know what this is going to lead to with Kenya. I want you to, and I told her I want her to make a deal. I don't care what the deal was. I don't care if you bring it down to assault. We just want to know where Kenya is.
Luckily, he didn't have to wait long. During an interrogation with police, Travis finally admitted that he had murdered Kenya. He said that he was dropping off his friend when he came across her that night in the streets of downtown Denver. She had been separated from her friends and was talking to a homeless man. Travis and his friend picked her up and offered to get her a car home, but she ended up getting into Travis's van. She told him she was going to her boyfriend's apartment in Aurora, and because it was near the bakery where Travis was headed, he told her that he would take her. They dropped off Travis's friend, and soon after, Kenia passed out. He pulled over and took her in the back of the van and sexually assaulted her. She regained consciousness and started fighting him off, so he said he strangled her to death. Travis told police he put Kenia's body in a large cooler and duct taped it shut. He stored the cooler in the bakery until he was able to bury her. He drove to Keensburg and buried her in a grove of cottonwood trees between Interstate 76 and some railroad tracks. He told the officers, "I wanted to bury her either next to some water or next to some trees, because that's where I would like to be buried. If someone had killed me, I would hope that they would bury me next to something nice, not just dump me in some fucking dumpster." He said he dug the hole fast, that he was surprised at how little time it took him. He also said he left his credit card inside the hole, not because he wanted to get caught, and not because he was trying to brag that he did it. He said he figured that if anyone ever found the body, that he should be caught. On September 7th, 2011, Travis led investigators to Kenia's makeshift grave. Travis agreed to plead guilty for both Kenia's murder and Lydia's attempted murder. And in return for his guilty pleas, the death penalty would be taken off the table. Tony says he was shocked that Travis had admitted to everything and said that the case against him was pretty weak otherwise.
I was shocked, is what I was, because they came to me and said that they got him to plead guilty for what he pled guilty to, and that he had agreed to a life sentence with no parole. I was shocked. And I said, "How did you get that?" And it was the weirdest thing, because every detective in that room, they looked at each other, and they had no answer for how they got that. They got him to do that. And I asked them straight up, "What was the physical evidence that you had against him?" They all looked at it as far as Kenia was concerned. And all they had were 3 strands of her hair. One they picked up from the back of that man, and 2 they picked up from the front of that man. And that was it. Everything was either burned and destroyed or trashed somewhere. They had nothing on him. And I asked them, "How did you get him to do what he did?" And one of them spoke up and said these very words, shocked me and Maria both. They said it was by the grace of God.
For Kenia's murder, Travis was sentenced to life in prison immediately after entering his guilty plea in court. He spoke to the court during his sentencing and said, "What happened to Kenia was a horrific, horrific crime. I will never have words to express my apology. I was horrible. I was cowardly. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't plan it. I took a life. I'm so sorry. For the people that knew me, I have to say, remember me, please. Remember me as I was, not the monster I became. I'm sorry." At his sentencing in Lydia's case, Chief Deputy District Attorney Michelle Brinegar outlined what exactly had happened that 4th of July night. She said that Travis met Lydia in a park at a 4th of July fireworks show, and that the two went back to her condo afterwards. She said Travis then strangled her and stomped on her head, breaking her jaw and eye socket, and he then lit the apartment on fire. She said Lydia escaped by jumping out a 2nd-floor window. After officially entering his guilty plea, Travis said his attack on Lydia wasn't anything personal, and that he had chosen her at random. He said, "Why did I do this? I have been searching for that also in my heart and my soul. I think we commit violent acts because deep down we find hatred of ourselves. I am so thankful that Lydia Tillman survived, because if I hadn't been caught, I probably would have done this again. Because deep down, I am fucked up. I'm evil." Lydia was still unable to speak, but her father read a statement that she had written out loud in court, and she stared straight at Travis while it was read. "You have taken nothing from me. My spirit, my soul, and my mind remain untouched. May you find peace in this life." Travis would not look back at her. He was sentenced to 48 years in that case. So in other words, Travis will be spending the rest of his life in prison. Travis's family was also in court for his sentencing, and Tony and Maria approached them.
Before we went into the courtroom, we were kind of making our way to it. There were a lot of people that were stopping us, and, there were, condolences and those types of things. But someone pointed toward the end of the hallway to this couple of people, this guy and this lady down there, and they were crying. You could tell they were visibly upset, and they said, "That's Travis's dad and Travis's grandmother. I need to go." And there was no hesitation. We went right away. We went down there and we talked to them. And I think that they needed to hear these words from them, that we hold no ill will towards you or your family. I mean, this has nothing to do with you. And I don't know if you were thinking that, but after I told, especially the grandma, she let loose, and it was like she needed more to hear those words from us. We were not holding this against their family, and we were not. It was strictly Travis. Was the only person that we were blaming, and not them.
Tony and Maria also met Lydia, someone they still keep in touch with to this day, forever connected by a tragedy that no one saw coming, that no one could see coming. Maria gave Lydia one of Kenia's rings. She said she heard Kenia's voice in her mind, telling her to give it to Lydia.
It was so special to me when I heard Kenia's voice tell me, give the ring to Lydia, to her, and I gave her the ring, and she was really happy to get the ring. I said, "This is from Kenia to you."
It meant a lot to Lydia at that time that we gave it to her. She was nowhere close to where she's at today. I mean, she was still unable to really talk or communicate or anything like that, but she talked and communicated that day, and you could tell her family noticed that, that gesture by Maria brought something out of her that she hadn't even got to yet.
Tony told me that he has tried reaching out to Travis since he's been in prison.
I've actually written Travis 4 times, 4 letters I've sent to him, and never heard back from him. And then finally, I got a call from the head prison. I don't know, the Department of Corrections, the director of the Department of Corrections himself called me in 2013, and he let me know that there's a law in the state of Colorado where, especially in sexual assault cases, where the victim and the perpetrator have a no contact order for life. It's only at that point where I found out that I cannot contact him, he cannot contact me. That's where it stands. And what I said was, mostly in the letters, is that I wanted to set up a meeting with him because I have some questions that I want to ask him. And I'm sorry I even said that, because those questions that I have for him, I have never shared with anyone, not even Maria, my wife. It's just some questions that he will be the first one to ever hear them when I ask them.
The story is almost over, but not quite. There's another life that was ruined in all of this. Remember Carrie, Travis's girlfriend, an alibi for the night that Kenia went missing? She was arrested in October of 2011 and charged with lying to investigators and attempting to influence a public servant. Tony and Maria told me that Carrie reached out to them after her arrest.
We did talk to his girlfriend. She want to see us, and we did have a meeting with her, and went good. The meeting went really good.
Her life is hell in this town because everyone knows who she is. She can't even find a job in this town because of this whole thing. So she been struggling with this whole thing. And so one of the things that she wanted to do, she got a hold of this organization, Catholic nuns, to reach out to me to see if I would have a meeting with her at a neutral location so that we can she needed to talk to us. We didn't need to talk to her. She needed to talk to us. And we met in this library on the west side of Denver. She came in and how she looked that day was she was totally broken. We went into this meeting and, by the end of this meeting, she was free from whatever it was that had her chained. And it was a totally different person we were looking at. And she was crying and she faked us. And, she needed to hear us say, I don't know if we didn't say we forgive her because we were not blaming her for anything, but she still needed to hear us say we forgive her.
Tony, Maria, and the rest of Kenia's family and loved ones will obviously never get over the pain of losing her, but they are using that pain to do something good and to try to prevent these things from happening again. They started a foundation, in name only, called the Kenia Monge Foundation. They don't accept donations, but they do go talk to other families and lend their support to other people who have gone through what they have. I asked what advice they would give to other families in similar situations.
There are physical things that can happen. I've known people who have loved ones who are still missing to this day, or who have gone through the similar things that we have gone through. And I let them know that this thing can kill you. Mm-hmm. This whole, and I've seen it happen, literally. Grief can kill you. So you've got to take care of yourself physically and best emotionally as you can.
Tony talked to me about how his family is now and how things have changed since losing Kenia. His daughter Kim has moved out and has 2 children of her own, Kitty and Jackson. He tells me that Kitty is a nickname that had actually come from Kenia in a roundabout kind of way, because Kenia loved Hello Kitty. Maria told me about how Kenia's father never helped them out in any way. As they were in Honduras, struggling to make ends meet, he was never there. Kenia had a rough childhood, and Maria was proud of how she endured through it all.
She was very lovely, and she likes to go parties a lot and likes to enjoy it. When you see her, she brings a lot, like sparkles everywhere. Like she was very happy little girl. She was very amazing. She did make me so proud that she graduated from high school. She graduated from Cherry Creek High School, and I feel so proud until this day. Always she make me so proud.
Tony told me one story about how Kenia and Kim were a part of an after-school program called City Wild. It's a group that takes inner-city kids and takes them out into the wild, skiing, hiking, camping, that sort of thing.
After one of their camping trips, it was a funny thing, and I was bringing the girls home one time, and they were in the backseat talking, and one of the things Kimberly just blurted out, Daddy, guess what we learned how to do? And I said, what, baby? And she said, we learned how to pee in the woods. And that was, it was things like that, but they saw in Kenia, she had these abilities to where, she was not only learning, but she was teaching as she was learning. And so they saw that in her. So by the time she was a 14-year-old ninth grader, they made her a paid member. They put her on salary with them as an instructor with camping and with the rafting and and the rock climbing and all of that. She became an instructor for them.
Both Tony and Maria said that Kenia was such a special girl and was such a leader that they like to think of what she would have become had it not been for what happened on April 1st, 2011.
So one of the things that we often think about where she would be, even today, but I often think myself, she'd be somewhere telling somebody what to do. I always felt about her. So,
City Wild gives away an award each year, called the Kenia Monge Leader of the Year Award. Their website states, students gravitated towards Kenia, drawn in by her infectious laughter and her dynamic charisma. In order to honor Kenia's memory, each year City Wild will select an individual who demonstrates extraordinary commitment in the areas of personal empowerment, leadership, or community participation to be the recipient of the Kenia Monge Leader of the Year Award. And that does it for this episode of the Court Junkie podcast. A huge thank you to Tony and Maria for sharing Kenia's story with me, and now with all of you. And thanks to everyone for listening. I have a small announcement that I'm excited to share with you. Court Junkie now has an online store where you can get Court Junkie t-shirts, hoodies, and mugs. Just go to my website, courtjunkie.com, and click on store, or you can go directly to courtjunkie.com/store. You can find me in our Court Junkie discussion group on Facebook, on Twitter at CourtJunkiePod, or you can email me at podcast@courtjunkie.com. To donate to this podcast and to get access to early, ad-free episodes, please go to courtjunkie.com/support. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.